You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
All right, so today we got James Pitts. That's right, James Pitts. One of my older buddies from my Navy days, from NMCSD, that's Naval Medical Center, San Diego, for all you non-sunny Southern California-ers. So me and James have been talking off and on about doing an episode a little bit about real estate, military service, and kind of how to help each other get through the transitional period that is affecting so many right now in the veteran community. And me and him have had some great conversations about what is available for veterans, just as let's say, opportunities, honestly, in the housing market is either A, a purchaser, or B, a seller, or even C, as a real estate agent, or different. You know, there's tons of different opportunities within housing, and the housing economy is actually booming, which is a surprise for me, seeing everything else that is going on with this COVID-19, or what are we calling it, coronavirus, the Chinese flu, the Hong Kong flu, the Hong Kong flu-y.
All hype.
What's another one? Have you heard any more?
No, but it's just all hype, I think.
I agree. I agree.
0.003 chance of death, and we're going to shut down an economy for that.
Yeah. I mean, well, let's put some more background on it. Like, are we just talking to James Pitts, the real estate agent, you know, the big guy that's selling most of Southern California? Or are we talking to James, the chief, right? Okay. Because that's what people don't know. They don't know that you were a chief in the military, the Navy. This guy, you know, he mentored me through a bunch of shit when I came home, trying to get my head on straight. Ended up going through advanced laboratory technician school because of James. Because he was the dude that I sat down with, and I was like, hey, you know, I'm thinking about this or that. And he goes, no, don't do that. It was just so straightforward. You don't want to do that. Don't do that. Okay, you want to do this. And I looked at what the options were with lab tech, and this is the reason why I've been talking about, you know, the COVID-19 or the pandemic the way I have been, is because after that school, I continuously went back to James, like, hey man, I owe you that 6-pack of Newcastle. And so now that we're here years and years and years later, you're going through this, first I want to hit up a couple of questions about what's going on the hype end, and what you think personally as far as, you know, being a corpsman, exposed to the medical arena as a professional, and having that leadership quality to understand how to kind of do things when things kind of happen. What do you think's going on, and how is that affecting you right now?
Well, my personal opinion is that, I mean, I do believe that the coronavirus is present, and I do believe it is deadly, just like how influenza is deadly every year. I don't think the numbers match the stats and warrant the action that the government has taken, especially in California. It's a 0.003 chance of death. You have more of a chance of dying of influenza than this. So where is all the hype coming up? My personal opinion, and I'm not picking sides, but right now, to me, it's domesticated terrorism. They're instilling fear for political gain. That is the definition of terrorism, 100%. So you got our governor instilling fear, and they got what they wanted, 100% mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
You know, they're getting everything. If you look at the stimulus bill for the coronavirus, let's just take the stimulus bill. Take the time to actually read that bill. It's just not about giving people money to stimulate the economy. There's hidden agendas in there.
Oh, yeah.
There's different things they talk about in that package. That's why they spent so much money, but they didn't tell the people that. So you got to educate yourself and actually read the bill and see what is really going on, because nowadays you can't even trust the news. So it's based on what websites and what information you believe is true.
That's true. And that's getting more and more difficult to find too, is good, reliable news resources.
Well, I mean, look at the evidence. They launched the Comfort. They launched the Mercy. They put the Mercy out of Long Beach Harbor or in LA. They treated 77 patients. Do you know how much money they just spent to launch that ship out of San Diego Harbor for 77 patients. I guarantee you that bill of the 77 patients is not going to make up for the bill that it took to put all those sailors on board, train them, then fund them, and then pay for the ship to leave.
Yeah. And all the
look at the evidence.
Logistics that go on and everything. Like
Yeah,
that was something I brought up. I did bring that up. I'm glad you're bringing it up because it's kind of hard for me to play devil's advocate when nobody's asking the same questions. It's kind of, I sit back and I'm like, okay, so do I have to play my own devil's advocate when I ask a question like that? And I go, it doesn't come off good, especially in shows. Like when you're doing entertainment or any kind of anything, when you're presenting information, right? Like this is going to be more of like, people say, well, what's your evidence base, blah, 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 blah. And I always go back to, well, look at it. Look at the money we're spending. Look at the move of logistics. Look at the distribution of masks, tests, et cetera. Look at the fact, like you brought up, they moved the Mercy and the Comfort. And what does it go? What is the, I don't even know. Like I've never been on a ship, right? But I do know for a fact it takes a tremendous amount of effort to move a boat. Okay, or a ship. I call it a boat. I don't know. But any point, you're going, well, how many people are on board? What's going on? What's the potential threat risks, right? All of these different things are going on because it's very apparent. And I'm like, wow, like, I'm just so glad you're asking those questions because it gives me that opportunity to dive in a little bit deeper. Because then when you even bring up the fact that they weren't seeing coronavirus patients, they were seeing regular old, run-of-the-mill, which is great. I think that was a great application for that type of modality, if you would, or type of medical movement, right? My next thing is, do you feel as though that it's going to change anytime soon? Or do you think because they're spending so much money that they're finding themselves in a complicated perspective hole? That's what I feel like. You could, you know how like chain of commands worked back in the day. Like let's say we stubbed our foot, broke our toe, and we went in the wrong direction. We can't overcorrect or assume a liability as a nation to say we were wrong. Were they going to just hide it?
There's things you can hide.
Yeah.
I think with this pandemic, it's definitely benefiting the Democratic side. I mean, think about it. If you're on the Democratic side, do you want Joe Biden out there on the campaign trail, speaking the way he speaks, challenging people to push-up contests, trying to fight people in the parking lot? No, right? During this pandemic, he's off the campaign trail, and they're basically doing everything for him.
Yeah. They're spoon-feeding him.
So, yeah, it's benefiting.
Yeah.
So, I think that it is definitely going to have an impact on the way we do things for the rest of our lives. And since this coronavirus thing hit, like the first day, and I saw my daughter doing distant learning through a computer, I was like, it's over. The way that we teach kids is going to be over, because now they know that they can teach kids distant learning. So now you got kids that get bullied, they can actually still sit at home and get the same education as a kid sitting in the classroom through video.
Yeah.
If you think about when colleges first went to the first online courses, right? Back in the day, like late 90s, early 2000s, when they went on, like they were experimenting with online courses, right? Look at today. You can get an entire degree, even do your labs at home. They will send you the stuff to do your labs, like a biology lab at home, and you can get your entire degree online.
That's tight.
Think about that. But think about how that's going to go in the elementary school, middle school, high school. And it's falling more into, I think it's a bad idea because kids need to socialize.
Oh, yeah.
Humans need to be social. And if you take that aspect from, can you think about this generation that are going to be socially awkward and trying to navigate their way through this world when school's over? So it's definitely going to have an impact on the way we do things and we go on. I think a lot of companies are going to have more employment opportunities for home. Why not? It saves them money.
Exactly. Like that was something that both education and entrepreneurship that I looked at, I've been looking at for years. I've been kind of a hermit for the past 10, almost 11 years now. And people go, well, why is that? Da, 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 blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to say it's personal because I'm very open about it, especially on the show, especially with other veterans, because it's one of those things where my lifestyle now, or I should say previously before this, was the example of what it is now, that people are staying home, people are staying isolated, and people need, for me personally, it hasn't really at all. Being isolated, being kind of using, even the entrepreneurial style that people are going towards, which is hilarious because you see all these celebrities on, Zoom and shit, and they're doing table reads of scripts to raise money. And I literally called this back in, I would say mid-February, when I realized what we were doing with this lockdown. I said, first, we're going to have this huge shift of economics. We're going to have major crashes. We're going to do all of this stuff. And then the nonprofits are going to come up. We're going to bail out all these banks. We're going to bail out all these corporations. They're going to suck up all the bailout money. The people are going to suffer. It's the same shit we did in '08. And then by the end of it, we're going to have these nonprofits to kind of make us feel better. And
I disagree.
I see it. It's the same thing that happened with 9/11, and what's happening now with 9/11. It's more of an advertising spot.
Yeah.
You can't get away from it. It's always in your face. It's like, this death rate, this, and you bring up one really great point, which is, schools, like high schools changed completely. People are graduating via online webinar stuff and whatnot. But I go, is it a good thing? I mean, I honestly don't think so, because like you brought up socializing. My kids are homeschool. We socialize a lot, but the restrictions that are here are more than what homeschool restrictions would be. We'd still go to Taekwondo. We'd still hang out, have barbecues with other homeschool parents and stuff, mingle. And now it's just 100% people aren't allowed to socialize, even in within their own circles. And I'm like, my mom comes over, my sister comes over once in a while, and we'll say hi. And my other sister has my mom stay at a social distancing. And I just don't understand it. Hold on real quick. Hey, Drake, what's going on? I hope he's not pissing everywhere now. This fucking dog, dude. It was like a $2,500 surgery, and I ain't got that. So we actually got help from this foundation called Face Foundation. And without that, he would have been a dead dog. But I was like, dude, he's my replacement for Leo, my service dog I had for 11 years. So just, growing pains with this little fucker. And the kids, they just love coming in and, what are you doing? What are you doing? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have to tell my kids too. I'm going to zoom. So you mentioned something really good. People are comparing everything to '08. And I get it all the time with clients that are talking about buying a house. And I'm not going to tie this into real estate, but everyone is expecting the housing market to crash, right? Everyone's like, the housing market's going to crash. Let's go through evidence-based theory right now. So in '08, we had a bunch of interest-only loans. A lot of people were buying $700,000-$800,000 houses that couldn't truly afford a $300,000 house. But due to the fact that it was interest only for the first 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, then they had that big balloon payment at the end of it, right? So if we go back and you look at the statistics in '08, only about 10% of the population in the U.S. had equity in their homes. That's why the market crashed. So any kind of dip, when you don't have equity, the market's gone. In today's market, 60 to 70% of the population at least have 60% of equity in their home.
Right.
So what you're going to see is a little bit of a dip in the market, a little dip. What's going to happen is all these dudes that own $1 million homes, all these businessmen that own multi-million-dollar homes, as soon as it dips, they're going to sell. And they're going to take their money because they're still going to make a profit. They're still going to be in the green.
Right.
There's people that, no matter if there's a little dip, still are going to end up making 100 or 200, 300 grand off their house. There will not be a housing crash. It's impossible. The numbers aren't there statistically. We all have equity in our homes, not like in '08, where like even if you took a $20,000 dip in the market, you were losing out on your home value. You couldn't rent it because the amount with the interest only was more than the rent in the area. So that's why you saw the market crash. Now these homes have equity in them. I can turn around and rent my house and still make my mortgage because my mortgage is so low because all these people bought when the market crashed the first time. Mm-hmm. And now they have tons of equity. So there will be no crash. There might be a little bit of a dip, but they're making up with it. Dude, I just put a VA loan in, closed the deal at 2.75% interest. That's amazing. Insane.
Yeah, no.
Last year at this time, we were at 4.5%, 5%. Think about how much more home you can purchase now. So like the economy is still there. And if you look at the housing market, it's the backbone of the financial infrastructure. If the housing market crashes, everything crashes with it. Stock market, everything.
Yeah, because they're predicting Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to really get hit hard. And it hasn't represented yet on the mortgaging funds or the stock exchange with the mortgage. I can't remember the exact words, but so these mortgage companies, the big ones, they purchase all these loans, right? And all
to
these
save us.
One more time.
So they purchased all the loans to save the people who weren't able to make their house payment. So instead of going into forbearance, so if you go into a forbearance, basically you're telling your mortgage company, hey, I can't make a payment for 4 months.
Right.
At the end of that 4 months, guess what? 4 months of payment is due at one time. It's a balloon payment. So Freddie and Fannie, what they did is they absorbed a lot of these loans because they are big. What you're going to see is these big mortgage companies are going to go and buy out these little mortgage companies. These big mortgage companies have enough investors and have enough money to cover payments to the investors that own these mortgage loans. And that's how they're going to stay afloat.
That's
the little
mortgage
companies are going to go away and the big ones are going to take over, like how it always is. Big brother's going to eat little brother until everything stables out. Then little brother's going to poke his head back out and restart his business again.
Yeah.
But that's what's going to happen in the market. There's too many great opportunities right now to invest and also purchase that there will be a crash.
Now, what do you see it as far as kind of a correlative thing, the total effect, like not just the housing market, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got the educational system. To me, it's kind of like we have an opportunity to, I want to say,
but it's everything, dude. Like, just think about the educational system. Let's talk about pro sports. Think about being a multi-million-dollar athlete.
Yeah.
And going to go play in a football game against another team with nobody in the crowd and everyone's just watching it on TV.
Yeah. See, that's the shit. I just...
You can't even go have a hot dog at a baseball game.
You can't.
That's something that all Americans do yearly. Most people go to a game, have a hot dog, drink a beer, have a great time, and be loud. But you're not going to be able to do that. Like,
and that's the thing that's driving me nuts is that social signaling of kind of the end of American lifestyle, right? That type of that thing is scaring me the most. It isn't necessarily the economy because the economy is going to rebound. People are just too desperate. Like, I mean, yeah, we have a unemployment rate in San Diego, 20-something%, 25, which is unheard of.
Yeah, but a lot of that too. Let's break that down. So I read an article today. San Diego, prime example. As we're starting to open up a lot of these small businesses, right? The employers are having a hard time getting their employees back. Guess why?
The stimulus checks.
No, because they are getting paid more on unemployment than they were making on their regular salary.
Holy shit.
Think about that.
So the incentive isn't there to go back to work.
Exactly. Like, would you go and take a pay cut to go have to work 8 hours a day? Or would you make the money and be able to sit at home and chill and do whatever you want to do?
That's a very good point. But there's a max out time on those benefits.
Yeah, they're
going to try and max out that time.
They're going to max it out. Then they're going to go back to their employer and be like, can I please have my job back? And if I was an employer, I'd be like, you know what? Cool. You guys don't all want to come back. I'll train a new staff and I will carry on. But yeah, think about that. They are making more money on unemployment than their regular salary.
That's pretty fucking bad. When you de-incentivize work, that's the problem, right?
Exactly. And think about that. Think about what agenda that's benefiting.
Right. More of a welfare system.
I don't have to name what side. Yep. More dependency on the government. The government wants you to be dependent on them because if you're dependent on them, they can control you.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. Remember being in Iraq and PSYOPs, right? Psychological operations. It's a thing that we do in the military. Every military force does it. Pamphlets get dropped off from birds in the sky. You got a guy on a Humvee with a loud speaker trying to change the hearts and minds of the people around, right?
Exactly.
So let's talk about Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. They're censoring everything. There's things that pop and they leave. What is that? PSYOPs. It's PSYOPs. They are controlling how the population think. They're not letting the population see everything and decide for themselves. They're only letting them see small glimpse of what they want the population to believe.
Right.
And it's there. Don't think that I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm not. Just look at the evidence. Look at the evidence and look at what we do in the military, and then look at what's happening now.
See, and that's the thing too. Like I was talking to Q a while back and a few other dudes about the same thing. I'm like, dude, doesn't this seem like we're playing a little bit too much into the hearts and minds type tactic, and we're trying to gleam over the cube of what reality is, and not really focus on what should I say, the applicable things of processing information. Like we're not even trying to digest what's happening. We're being spoon fed into what to believe. And I'm like, what is going on? Like the massive, I should say, effect of what's happening, right? Just in a psychological sense, right? The polarity of politics and science. And I mentioned this to Ken Jeong on Instagram, the comedian dude that's on the all that shit. Really great guy. I love following him, and I love the show Community. So I was looking at his social shit, and it was really interesting because to me, everybody's kind of like saying, you can't refute science. And I'm like, okay, but not refuting science is not science. That's religion. Blindly just accepting things that come from a hierarchical structure of authority without checking it or, reading into it or researching is a very ignorant style of followership, right? And to have leadership of any kind of demand that onto society is extremely volatile and scary, like damaging, deadly, bad. Okay. Like for me to see this. So I put up a basic thing. I just asked the question, is this science or is this politics? Right. And then I gave a little, just a little bit. And then somebody asked, please do explain. Like, they were snarky and they were being, this guy's not going to explain. He's not going to try to explain himself. And I did. And it was just a quick little paragraph about how we implement practice, triage, and our expectancy of protocol, and the way that we're managing and our mandates, and the way that we're implying authoritative styles of practice. Meaning, just like we did, and I mentioned this, just like we did with the opiate pandemic, right? We had a knee-jerk reaction to opiates. Now opiates, the greatest devil on earth. It's Satan, right? And I go, but it's not. There's still circumstances where people may require opiates, and all we've done is make that excruciatingly more difficult. The protocols and practices have led to an increase of both heroin, fentanyl, black market trade of those type of drugs, and suicide. And nobody discusses that. And days go on. I took a picture of it because I kind of expected this. 2 days go on, and more people liked that and both the things I said, and then they deleted it. And I was like, I didn't take any opposition. I didn't take any position of, bipartisanship or politics or argument of the status quo or what the social status of pure blind acceptance. I didn't even question it. I just said, these mandates are going to make it a lot more difficult for patients to receive care. And we're seeing it, there's a lot of different types of conditions besides COVID-19, right? Or coronavirus. And we're seeing it in a larger scale of medical economics where people aren't practicing different types of care. It's just being...
Don't get me started on the medical side, because that is insane to me. Like, I don't understand how the government can't come in and be like, hey, you know what? Your pill that you want to charge $3,000 per pill? No.
Right. But we're seeing that happen with ventilators. We're seeing that happen with masks. But they don't do that I don't want them to do it totalitarianly, whatever the fucking word is I'm looking for. But I want them to do that shit for like cancer pills and treatments, shit for like diabetes, where we're seeing a market gouge of things, right? Certain medications, prescriptions are price gouged. The expense isn't there to manufacture. And when you look around in different generic types of branding, the cost per medication isn't there. But you see what they're doing now, and I'm like, okay. So it's kind of, I don't know. I can't wrap my brain around it at times because of the fixation on having a populace controlled, not necessarily a application of practice. If that makes any sense, it
does. I don't think it's more population control. I think it's more greed. and everyone's benefiting from that medical sector of them developing medications that cost 10 cents to develop a pill, and they're price gouging at 3,000 because they know that someone's going to have to pay for it, right? It's market value, just like houses, right? What can I sell this for? I'm the only one with this pen.
Right.
This pen. Nobody else has this pen. I paid 50 cents for this. Now I got 20 people that want my pen. Am I going to sell for 20 cents, or am I going to sell it to the highest person that I can sell it to and make the most money? Same thing with the medical. And it's ridiculous. It should be regulated. Everything else is regulated. Why not regulate that industry and save lives? It makes no sense to me. Yeah, like what you're saying, there's so many things that are going to change. And they're playing with the political views of everybody, and they're trying to have everybody look at one view. And let's just talk about like separation of government. Like, let's talk about how separated the United States is right now.
Oh my God, dude.
How badly we are separate. And everyone wants to blame Trump. Trump separated, blah, blah, blah. Let's look at facts. Let's look at right during the election, before the election, what did Obama say? Trump will never be president, blah, blah, blah. He separated everybody right then and there, right then and there. And I have evidence. I was talking to a client, and I got into a political debate with a client. And that was probably not the right thing to do, but it kind of got on my nerves. And, you know, she is all about Joe Biden. I'm not. I think he's Chester the molester. He's bad news. He can't even have a straight thought and be able to say what he's thinking. So I was like, you would have Chester the molester as the president of the U.S. She's like, well, don't you think they already know that he did all that stuff when he was the VP? I was like,
how does that justify it?
Exactly. You have a daughter. Like, how does that not, like, dude, like, people's hatred for Trump, like, have totally blocked their moral views on. But let's talk about Judge Kavanaugh when that sexual assault case. All these people were like, oh, he raped these girls. All these women's right movements were going up against Judge Kavanaugh, right? Let's see, where are all the protests for Biden and his new sexual misconduct stuff?
When people are even asking about it, like Nancy Pelosi was like, hey, I don't need a lecture from you.
Exactly.
I was like, hold the fuck. Wait the fuck. What the fuck is happening in the world?
And people, you know what? We need to stand up, and it's going to come to, I'm going to say this, the 3%, the vets, because of our oath to defend foreign or domestic, right? They're going to stand up. And when we all stand up, it's going to be bad for everybody. It's going to be bad for that side, because let's just, like, there's no fair ground. There's no standard.
Exactly.
These officials need to know they work for us. We elect them. We don't work for them. We're not pawns in their game. They're pawns in our game.
Exactly.
You know, and they think that, let's talk about Governor Newsom giving money to immigrants. Well, what about all those homeless vets? What about all those homeless Americans in San Francisco in your aunt, Nancy Pelosi's district?
Exactly.
But no, we're just going to go ahead and deliver weed and alcohol to them in these hotels and let them just stay quiet and let them vote for us, because we're going to get them all hopped up on drugs. Does that make sense?
It doesn't, because even if you did hop them up on drugs, I guarantee you half of them are still not going to vote for you.
Yeah, exactly. Why not go in there with doctors and start doing detox and start running, getting them clean, and have programs go in there and start helping these guys find jobs? Exactly.
Or just like having like, having like group meetings where at least something is being done rather than enabling, right? Mm-hmm. Like to me, it's kind of like the problem that I guess with the veteran community, it's kind of the same thing. Excuse this thing real quick, where we're enabling a certain type of behavior because we don't necessarily know what to do or how to manage it without stepping on the toes of personal choice, or coming off as like a tyrant. That's how I feel a lot of the times. Like when I myself was going through difficult times, people didn't really engage with me because they didn't want to make it worse. They didn't necessarily know how to help. And that's kind of what I see happening right now on a governmental level. Nobody knows what to do, so they're just doing shit and hoping it sticks to the fucking wall. And too many people are realizing how fucking stupid people are. And I don't like saying that as if I'm some genius, right? I'm going to walk away and be like, you know, come up with the fucking answer to existence. I won't. Nobody will. That's kind of the fun of it all. But when we take a step aside and we look at what we're dealing with, in fact, right, we literally, not figuratively, shut down the world, not just the U.S. economy, the world economy.
Except for China.
Yes. So what are we doing? Like, what are we actually dependent upon? Why are we so dependent upon? And these are the more important questions. What are we actually doing here? You know, like at all, as Americans, why are we allowing our schools to be
exactly? Why are we sitting and taking a beating instead of giving the beating?
Exactly. And instead of being like the victim of this all, right? This
and there's more of us than of them.
Right. By the handful. And if there's so much more people that want to move forward, although it be a little more precarious or dangerous, we want to move forward within that danger. We want to move forward with that will of patriotism and rebellion or spirit of fuck it, we'll get through this shit, right? I always like try to, PC it up because people like that nowadays. I should say they don't like the direct, abruptness of what Donald Trump is. So if you come off anything like that, they just go, oh no, you're a Trumper, and I'm like, but so what? Like, when did politics become the end all be all?
Exactly. Everyone should have the right of view. Shoot, it's what we fought for, right? Everyone to have the freedom of speech and be able to do whatever they want. Cool, we get that. But like, everybody wants everything to be PC, but like under Obama, gives Iran how many billions of dollars, right? We were a little bitch under his administration to the world, basically. We were funding everybody.
Oh, yeah.
To be cool with everybody. We were losing in trade wars. Everyone says, oh, it's because of Obama that the economy did so well under Trump. Negative. Look at the evidence. And the funny thing is, let's talk about PTSD. Let's talk about how this affects PTSD, right? So I got the perfect thing. So, our hypervigilance, every time we're outside or in a restaurant in public, we're looking around, right? Looking at who's around us, looking at exits, looking at making sure people don't get too close. That's how the world is walking around right now. Mm-hmm. Like with our symptoms. Oh, so it's actually making us feel blended. I feel more blended in. I'm just like, now people are really paying attention, and now they're walking in our shoes for a little bit of time, just with hypervigilance, right? And seeing how we go through our day, every day. Yeah. Once we leave our house, So, but is it a right way for them to live? Absolutely not.
I agree.
This is not what we fought for. And I told my wife the other day, I'm like, you know what? For doing 4 combat tours and risking my life, this is not what I risked my life for. These aren't the freedoms that I risked my life for. Exactly. This is not what I wanted to see happen to Americans. To be controlled by our own government because of their political views, negative. This is, and it's really been bothering me. And that's really been like heavy on my heart. Like, man, like, why did I do what I did for this? My kid can't even go play softball right now. My kid can't even go to a park. Yeah. Like your kid can't even go down the street and play with the friend next door. Like people are like showing videos of how things are being enforced. Again, I have my own ideas or concepts or opinions, of course, but at the end of the day, I respect authority. I respect authority, right? Doesn't mean I obey anything. I have a tolerable respect level for things that I agree with, and I have a discipline or a standard of living. My moral and ethical behavior is based off, right? And what is happening now is completely in contrast to that. Let's look at it in the simplest of form. Look at tracers. Tracers, perfect example. What's a tracer? So Governor Newsom came out last week. I thought you were talking about cool bullets that look like fucking saber. No, not look at the lightsaber just traveling through the air. No. In a speech last week, he said, and these were his exact words, I watched it, I am starting a little army of tracers. We are currently hiring them and we are training them. So basically, he's going to put these people out in every single county in California. And they're going to trace the coronavirus. So if you came down with the coronavirus, they're going to be like, all right, cool. Who did you come in contact with? But if you come down with coronavirus, the tracers can come to your house and take you out of your house and put you in a state holding facility and your kids. When is it cool to do unlawful search and seizure of a home? You ain't coming to my home. I will blast. You're not touching my kids. I thought the Democrats were against separating families, though. Exactly. Full circle. There it is. Full circle.
I love these questions, dude. I love these topics because it's a lot of what I have to sit down with myself. And I'm very happy because two things, a lot of people refrain from asking these type of questions because of political agendas. And so what I've noticed.
But we're not talking sides here. We're
correct.
talking
That
evidence.
we're just talking substance. This is what's
Yep.
there, right? So like in a soap note, right? If we were pretending this everything that's going on as a patient, we have to look at everything that's occurring to understand what it is and why. Like one of the coolest lessons I learned from one of my IDCs was you don't just look at the fucked up knee, okay? Because the fucked up knee, like in a I shouldn't say a non-trauma application of medical practice, right? Because yeah, if you have a knee that's blown out and spitting blood in your face, yeah, that's what you want to listen to. That's what you want to look at. But if it's a ACL, PCL, whatever we got going on, you want to look up and down. So check the back, check the hip, check the ankle, check the foot. Maybe there's an off balance and a compensation for something. And that's kind of what I'm glad to see a lot of people doing with economy, with politics. I'm not saying being political, not shitting on politicians or favoring a side, but look at it. So Joe Biden has a history. He likes touching people. He likes being slightly awkward. In any kind of respect to that, I go back to if I were to see this behavior unfold in front of me.
People would just go back to looking at politics as agreeing with their views instead of who they are or what blue or red. And just look at people's views and what they're trying to accomplish. I think we'd be in a better off place. You know, I truly believe that Obama was elected his first time because of his skin color. How many people were like, "Oh, he's black. I'm gonna elect him." It wasn't on his views, and that's completely wrong. It's like a population con. It's not. We shouldn't be electing for who they are. We should be electing for the views and the right views.
Right. And see, and I agree with that because when you look at people that kind of get into a position of authority simply because of popular, I would say perceived popular ideal, right? So we perceive Obama at the time, a lot of people, and even I did, I was proud, that we had a black president, but there's a lot of black people that were a better choice. Maybe they didn't run for president.
Colin Powell.
There you go.
I would have voted for that 100%.
Yep. But that's
his leadership style, everything.
Even if Condoleezza Rice were to run, right, I would say she has a lot more potential than a community planner from Chicago, okay? And kind of was in, I think, a senator or congressional position for like 2 days. I don't even know, because then he flipped it right around to become president. Cool power play move, much respect, right? But the problem is the perceptions, okay? When Obama can go on stage with an angry black interpreter, right, which was the Key and Peele dude. I can't remember the dude's name, but you've seen him in movies. He's a great actor. Anyways, he's the interpretation of black anger, and he's able to translate when Obama would be like, today's going to be a difficult day. You know how he talks. And we got to get through this. And then he'd get on and be like, yo, black asses. And he'd get really funny. And it was a great moment. And they did it at, dinners and stuff like that. And I loved it because it gave people a level of understanding where people can have a little bit of levity and fun. And I like it when they do that shit. I love it when politicians show they humanize themselves for people to relate and to get. I would say, yes, it's an advertising tool, but still, I respect that. But the problem is when you take, let's say, a Donald Trump person, would he be allowed an angry white interpreter? Right? No, nope. People would go fucking nuts. So there's that hypocritical aspect that I can't get behind. The same thing with Joe Biden. This is one of the bigger ones for me. Anything sexual, okay? I was a big guy in the military, like hefty, like bulky. I was strong. But my thing towards females and just sexuality in general is it's a no-go, okay? Don't go anywhere near anything that's sexual because it's your ass, Mr. Postman, right? Mm-hmm. Don't fuck around with it. Don't play around with it. If you're out drinking and it kind of goes from one place to another, be aware that it's always a thing. It's always a thing. As a man, where you're kind of a big dude, or you come off as intimidating, if you have like yourself tattoos or whatever, people have this scary perception of guys, and I don't know what it is. They have I should say it's a scary perception of masculinity. And that perception of masculinity right now is so odd, because when you are a masculine man, real masculine, like an actual man, you don't do dumb shit like take advantage of young girls or women that are drinking. You don't take advantage of your authority. You don't force yourself upon children to sniff their hair. You don't caress cheeks unless they're your kids. This is weird behavior. Like, I wouldn't tolerate that from a family member. And here's Joe Biden on record. Here's, recorded accounts of sexual.
And people are cool with it.
They're not only cool, they're openly defending it. They're like, oh, don't.
But then they were the same people that said shit about Trump and Kavanaugh.
Right.
The same people.
But the moral compass here, they're saying, is anything to get rid of Trump. And I'm like, when people talk like that, and they make decisions based off of that, their motives are not good. And I can't put that in any other way. If it was Trump talking like this, if the motive
because
was...
they're making an emotional decision instead of making an educational decision. They're being fueled by their emotions instead of looking at the big picture. And their emotions are letting them believe what they want to believe, which is
the dude literally,
wrong.
You could see it, touches kids inappropriately. I've never seen anybody touch a kid like that and anybody be cool.
And I'm telling you, they're cool with it. Like, I had this conversation with the client. They're like, well, he got vetted his first time as VP. Well, dude, like, that don't make a difference. And it's just hatred. And if it's going against people's morals, and it's ridiculous to me. And it bothers me to the point where I'm just like, we are no better than a third world country.
We're not.
The corruption.
Yeah.
Look at the way we're living right now. You can't even go to the store and get toilet paper.
The corruption's really something, though.
Yeah, and it's there, and there's so many things that we didn't know. Like, my personal opinion, I would never elect anybody in office that was under the Obama administration. If you have an administration that's going to let service members and ambassador die when they need help in a QRF, and you're able to put your head and go to sleep that night knowing that people are dying under your watch, you ain't an elected official in my eyes.
No,
and that's what I'm basing all my things off of. Call me wrong, but you allowed service members to die.
For nothing
they were
other
screaming
than
for help.
Yes, for nothing other than the lack of ability to make a decision. And that was something that I definitely didn't like about the Obama
how hard is that decision? Boom. We got active duty members, special operators under heavy fire, launch QRF. Boom. That's it. That's all you have to do. It's the E1 could have made the decision that knows they're in trouble, get them reinforcements.
Yep.
Not, let's go ahead and see what happens tomorrow. Let me go to bed tonight. Screw you. Then you're going to cover it up and lie to their families? Fuck that. Like, in my eyes, never going to happen. I will never elect anybody or vote for anybody under the Obama administration.
See, and that's something that I agree with, but that's something that we've seen kind of play into Trump's administration in a gravitationally bad way, where everybody that was affiliated with the Obama administration in any way somehow seems to be playing a card. And I'm not saying conspiracy, but definitely something that would be in lieu to either conspiracy or treason to dethrone or deseat or deface a sitting president, right? And in my eyes, I completely agree with people being emotional. I completely agree with people being upset. People were upset that Obama became president. It was an upsetting time for a lot of different views and people and whatever. And the same thing with different political opinions. Like when George Bush, initiated essentially everything that happened post 9/11. A lot of people were in disagreement, and we're even more in disagreement now, reflecting. But I go, the key thing that we have to keep here is the past is the past. Okay, we could keep using it as this tool to kind of guide us in the future, but that historical anchoring and that cognitive bias of hindsight, I can't apply it constantly to Trump because of what we're seeing is happening towards him. Specifically, it's a very interesting take, right? Where if you're anything other than, well, we don't want you to succeed and we're willing to sacrifice the American people in order to do so. And I'm like, that type of mentality is the one I'm not afraid of it because I've seen it and I know it, but it's the same type of mentality where you'd see a sheik or Oman or somebody come up and be like, hey, you have no direction in your life. Let me help you, right? And then these guys are young people. They literally latch onto the teat and they listen to every word and everything. And then they go blow themselves up for 72 virgins. And you're like, well, hey, kid, that's not the best route, right? Same thing with gang affiliation. I've seen friends go into gangs. I've seen friends, die in gangs. I've seen friends go to prison. I've seen prisoners, talk to prisoners, and the whole mentality of that gang affiliation, like the gang comes first. I'm seeing it on politics in dangerous level. Like it's so much worse. And I think,
and it's so much more like that. You could totally tell, you'd see their scandals and no one even cares. Like,
oh yeah.
Paying $500 million to Chinese to get masks for California. Why not put that into the U.S. government to help stimulate the economy? You're telling
Nobody's
me that
even
there's
talking
nobody
about the funding that went directly to that lab that this is expected to come from in the history.
Exactly. And they asked, hey, let's see the books. Oh no, it could close the deal. You can't say no to us. You work for us there, Mr. Governor. Open the books.
Yeah, they're moving shit. And that's usually what happens.
There's kickbacks.
Oh yeah.
Kickbacks are happening. And
they're even saying that about the death reports. Like you get more money to report the death related to COVID-19 than you would if it's just a regular death. So a lot of death reports are being ...
Everybody, you go into a hospital for a broken leg, they're going to put COVID-19 as one of your diagnoses or your secondary diagnoses. Guaranteed.
That's
if you were to die of a heart attack, they're going to diagnose it as COVID-19, which COVID-19 doesn't affect the heart, it affects the lungs, right? You die from Alzheimer's, COVID-19, our numbers are skewed. That's how they were getting the numbers and the death rate. And then they realized that they can't raise the number enough to make it to where a lot of people will believe that it's really that serious. Because I don't. I mean, I practice hygiene like we should, right? Wash your hands. Put hand sanitizer on your hands. All these people walking around with masks that cover their mouth, but their nose is still exposed. No. What about these people that are going to grocery stores with gloves on and they're picking up this can and then they move that can over, and they grab the can in the back? Well, guess what? That can that was contaminated in the front, you just contaminated all of them to the back. In the medical field, when we use gloves, you touch one patient, you take your gloves off, you wash your hands, you put on a new set of gloves to go see another patient, right?
Exactly.
So you don't wear your gloves and go walk around.
No.
Because you're contaminating everything.
Exactly.
And what these masks that are made out of cloth, they're not protecting anything. The particle of the virus is small enough to go through it.
Exactly.
So it's instilling fear.
And what is
fear,
it? What
fear,
is it
fear.
that you're making in front of your mouth? Is nice, warm, hot, wet fabric that's going to be drawing in particles. Oh my God,
Bacteria.
That's like a fucking hotbed for
Cesspool.
anything.
Yeah, you're a lab tech.
Yeah. Oh, dude, like I said, like hearing people talk about shit, right? And having to kind of write it back to where we were starting with as back to that shit that, I learned because you said, hey, dude, you don't want to be a PMT. And I was like, okay, like I'm going to take it because guess what? The SRB is also more in lab tech. But the truth is what you learn in that, and nobody's listening to lab techs. And I go, yeah, because I'm not an immunologist. I'm not a virologist. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a title. And that's exactly what's been happening. And I love that you brought up PTSD is because it does have a huge correlation to the effect of what people are doing right now in a societal psychology. Now, for me as an individual, right, as a lab tech, looking at our habits, like our hands, our sanitizer, cleanliness, fabrics, different types of applications of materials for combating X, Y, and Z. The N95 mask is a great mask. I'm not going to lie. You can treat tuberculosis patients with it. You can treat a lot of different exposures or anything like that wearing that type of mask. You don't want to wear that mask for a prolonged period of time because it's not that comfortable. It's going to create indentations, and you're also going to accumulate external shit on the out of the mask, the outside of the mask. So there is a problem, right? We do always leave it in the tuberculosis room. We would have a UV light that would sterilize some shit inside of a little cubby. You remember how the wards were set up, right? Mm-hmm. And you would have post-op patients.
Negative pressure.
Yeah, all the negative pressure, all the different types of protocol, right? And every day you walk in there, it'd be a fresh gown, a fresh gloves, and then you'd clean your glasses or your mask, or you'd clean your mask and your visor. That's what it's fucking called. And you do your labs, whatever you need to draw from the patient. And that's every morning and every evening if you're on a ward or pre-op, post-op, or if you're on like, it was called 5 North is what it's called. But it's a really interesting dynamic to see how people are reacting to this. Because even the fact when we were talking about testing, right? And they brought up Abbott controls and nobody's bringing up laboratorial variances. Nobody's bringing up inaccuracies. Nobody's bringing up false positives, false negatives. Nobody's bringing up any dynamics to applicable science. It's just our numbers are this, and that's what you're going to accept. And I'm like, nobody's talking about recovery rates. Nobody's talking about how if there's 9 patients, positive patients here, how many do we currently have? Because how many of those patients recovered without any kind of issues? What were the issues?
Psyops.
Exactly. Let's make this
Psyops.
the boogeyman. And so as a lab tech, and I hear the rate of proliferation or the virility of COVID-19, I'm reminded of the swine flu. And when the swine flu was coming out, I was a lab tech in El Centro. And the things I saw occur would be more akin to what we're seeing again, which is a political.
I was in Afghanistan.
What did you guys see during that when you guys were in Afghanistan?
So like anytime in history, right? Like let's talk about SARS, swine. We never quarantine the healthy. You always quarantine the sick, right? So, I was at IDC in Afghanistan. We had people coming in. If they had a fever with a cough, we quarantined them for 48 hours, put them on a ward and isolated them. Within that, if their fever broke and they met all the symptoms and the requirements, then we put them back out in the regular population. They went back to work. No big deal. No shutdown of government. No shutdown of military operations. Do you think we had swine flu spread all over our base? Nope. Did we have tons of service members come down with swine flu because one person tested positive? And you know what? When we're living in Afghanistan, we're living in very tight quarters. It's not like being at home, you know what I mean? We're living like, nut to butt, basically.
On top of each other.
And so if anything's going to spread, it's going to spread there. Nope, nothing spread. So like why? Like that's why I'm sitting here with this COVID-19 thing and I'm just like, wow, like they're shutting down everything. Like think about how many people have lost their jobs and how many small businesses went under and couldn't recover because they had to take a month off. They lost everything. For what? A political view and a political agenda?
But that's the problem a lot of people are having is conveying that fact that this is a political agenda. It's not science. And having that go anywhere of tangibility or credit, right? There's no credence to what a lot of guys are saying, girls and guys, everybody's, even doctors. If it's not in line, right? If we're not stepping in line to that march, that steady drum beat of socialized communism.
Look at that video that came out with the 2 immunologists, right? One was a renowned immunologist.
From Bakersfield, right?
He broke down the numbers. It was just straight CDC numbers, broke it down, and did the percentages of the population and broke down the thing. How long did that last on Facebook and YouTube?
No, they got rid of it immediately. And then they said it wasn't in line to their social standards.
Psychological operations.
Yep.
Like psyops, like it's to the T. Like anyone that was in the military should be able to see what the hell is going on because we do it ourselves when we're overseas.
We do it every time. We do it and we're in like home. Like everybody goes, okay, what is the military? And I go, it's breaking down things that people do every day, building a routine and building it up the way that you need them to conduct themselves. It's the basics that you can really formulate a mind. The basics is what people aren't looking at right here. They're not looking at the basics of virology. They're not looking at the basics of immunology. They're not looking at the basics of anything scientific. They're going outlandishly.
They're trusting that dude, that Dr. Fauci, whatever his name is, who hasn't treated a fucking patient in 30 years. Dude, screw that dude.
Exactly. So he
is so outdated.
He is okay. And I'm going to say it because he kind of reminds me of something off of a book. Like if there was a Harry Potter book, he would be like one of those like goblin dudes with the big ears. Mm-hmm. And I always have to correlate funny shit, just like how the chick Lightfoot from Chicago, the mayor, looks like Beetlejuice. I that's how I remember people, you know. But
it's politics. I mean, it's even the politics that are in the military. You can go in and look at a position that opens up, a very high position in the military opens up. They're going to put somebody and pick somebody in that position who's in line with their views, right? The CNO of the Navy is going to pick a MCPON that's in line with his views, right? They hired this doctor because he's in line with certain views that have nothing to do with COVID-19.
So then on that note, it's like, to me, even though Donald Trump is kind of showing a face of, hey, let's go ahead and reopen up and stuff, he's kind of doing what Reagan did to gun rights and machine guns, and even Donald Trump did to machine guns and gun rights, which is playing that I'm your friend, but then kind of shoving it in your back, like on that sly end. And I the only reason why I'm saying it is because Bricks and Fauci, to get medical professionals, they're administrative professionals, and I love administrative professionals because they understand the bureaucratical leverages that you need to pull on to get something to go in the right direction. But when you look at application of practice, it's like fucking a coconut, a monkey fucking a coconut. It just doesn't make sense. You don't know why. And then when it rolls out, you come to find out that they're wrong and you were right. And oh my God. But what we've done though, in this moment, I would say, okay, look at what we've actually did to the United States economy, not what COVID-19 could have did or done or what is going to do, right? Look at what it did. Look at what it's doing. What are we doing? I'm not going to cut someone's fucking leg off.
Who wanted to crash the economy? Who was at a disadvantage that our economy was exceeding so good that the stock markets were breaking records, the housing market was through the roof? Who benefited from crashing the market? That's all you have to ask yourself. Who benefits from this?
The political left.
Exactly, because that gives them a position to go against Trump, that his economy wasn't as stable as everyone thought. Well, no matter who the president was, he could have been God himself. If they shut down our economy for a month, it's done.
And I don't like how people are bringing that up. One of the last questions, because I know we got to get wrapping this up. One of the last questions I have for you is a housing one. Because that's something that I find even more important than all this bullshit of politics and science, is getting people into a home and getting comfortable, moving on with their personal life, right? James and I have known each other for quite some time. If you couldn't tell by our rapport and, just the way we talk to each other. One of the biggest things that he always helped me with, again, like in the beginning of this, was to find better opportunity, not only for myself, but now for my family. After discussing things in the past about what school to go to and how to maximize the educational benefit both in the military and outside, it was something that I took for many years to every application, both in audio school and even now in what we're building with the Devil Dog Talk Show. What is the best way I can do something, right? So after me and James had talked a bit about the economy, one of the major questions that I had was, during this setback, how can a veteran take advantage of both percentage ratings, if they can refinance, finding a home, getting the money for their loan, filing for the VA, getting all their maximized benefits? And he goes, dude, this is the best time. So I wanted to ask James one last question. If you're a veteran looking for a house, right, what would be the first steps to either getting involved with you guys, because you guys are just knocking it out of the park with sales like every other week or every week. And it's always coming back like, hey, we got this family member, this veteran in a great loan at 275, which is nationally unheard of. We just refinanced at 275, which was very difficult because of the process. But at the end of the day, the savings that you're going to make is amazing. So again, how would one get started with you guys if they're one just kind of, I'd say, dipping their toe into the market? And then secondly, if they're looking to refinance or find something new, what would be the first steps?
Okay. So, I belong to Kimpson Associates. We're a veteran owned operated team. Our team lead, Chris McCullough, is actually a retired gunny. His wife, Kim Steele herself, is a prior Marine Corps sergeant. One of our biggest things is to make sure we're taking care of vets and making sure that we're giving them a service that no one else can give. We have a lender on our team, Tony Paleo from American Pacific Mortgage, who is outstanding with these VA loans. We closed the VA loan during the COVID virus in 14 days. 2.75% interest rate, $500 out of pocket to the buyer. That's
Nice.
it. She paid $500 to get into her house. That includes her closing costs and her inspections. everything, $500 out of pocket to get into a house. Right now is the time. You have to take advantage of these low interest rates. Everyone keeps asking me, hey, I'm not going to buy a house right now. I'm not going to buy a house right now. I'm going to wait for the market to crash. I'm going to wait for the houses to dip. Well, let's look at this. Let's look at the math. The housing market hasn't moved price-wise due to the interest rates, right? And historically, when interest rates drop, the housing market goes like this, right? Then when the housing market drops, interest rates go up, right? So it balances its way out. So right now, interest rates dropped. This didn't move. You see what I'm saying? So think of the deal is in the interest rates. Last year at 4%, think about what kind of home you could purchase at with that interest rate. Now look at what type of home you're able to purchase at 2.75 and how much buy power that just freed up for you. That's getting you into those homes. So you can contact me at james@ksadreamhomes.com. Anyone that hits you up, you have my number, you can give it out. Getting people in right now as vets is opportune time because I don't know if you all understand, but usually the VA loan is one of the most underrated loans when it comes to purchasing a home and presenting it to a seller because there's no skin in the game for the vet, right? We don't have to put any down payment. Our EMD is only 1%, the earnest money deposit that we put. So sellers look at it and be like, is this for real? Are they really going to be into this home compared to that one dude that's putting $200,000 down on a $500,000 house, right? Who are you going to take if you're the seller? So, but right now during COVID-19, if you are an active duty military member, active duty and wanting to buy a house, you are the cream of the crop and you're at the top of the list. The reason why is everybody's falling out of escrow. People are getting into escrow and then people are getting sick with COVID or something's going on and they're falling out. Let's talk about when I go into negotiations. I went into negotiations last night in a house that I'm waiting to get confirmation open escrow in this morning. I went into the negotiation, not with price, not bargaining with price. I went in like, hey, check this out. I have a teacher for 20 years in the LA school district. He's not losing his job. Teachers are in demand right now. Teachers aren't being furloughed. What other offers do you have and what other jobs? Is it a construction worker that might be furloughed? Or is it someone that has an opportunity that can be furloughed? Oh, yeah. Well, guess what? Mine's the strongest person. Well, you don't have the strongest price. My thing is, do you want to close the escrow or not? Boom, got it. So you are the most opportune time right now. And at a 2.75% interest rate, the last house I closed at 2.75, she purchased at $484,000. Her payment was $2,400 a month. That includes principal, interest, tax, and insurance. And it was a house in South Temecula in the Red Hawk community.
Nice. See, and that's something for a lot of people that they don't understand. Like when you're breaking down the cost of just refinancing, when you're breaking down the cost of getting into a house with the inspections, et cetera, it's very difficult to do it at cost or no cost for the person. I was able to figure that out. You know, there's a little bit more wiggle room with certain things. And the second thing I always tell people is look into your benefits as tax, your tax write-offs, your tax certificates, or they call that reduction in California. There's a lot of different things to do to make your dollars go a little bit further than they can or what you thought maybe. Look into refinancing, look into your own house, look into actually paying into your own future. That way, like you were saying at the beginning, that equity is yours. It's
a bank account. Exactly. You're basically taking $2,000, $2,200 a month and sticking into a savings account that it's appreciating more faster than how faster you could put the money in. Mm-hmm. That's how you need to look at it. Hands down. I bought my house in 2010 at $330. It's worth $630 right now. You know what I mean? It's location and it's just a great time right now for vets. And it's a great time for active duty military members to take advantage and get into these beautiful homes and not have to raise a kid on base housing with mold in your house and people getting sick. I'm sorry to say that. As soon as the military turned over base housing to the civilian Lincoln, it's over. Just look at everything else that we turned over to the civilians and the crap that we get. So why an E5 BAH with dependents can afford with just the BAH payment alone, right? I'm not talking about anything else. The $3,000 BAH, right, for an E5 with a dependent can purchase a $500,000 home and have that as their monthly payment.
Yeah.
Like, why would you give somebody else your BAH for Lincoln to live in a house with mold when you could buy a $500,000 house in Temecula, 4-bed, 5-bath, 2,300 square foot, and probably a pool in your backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And get to send your kids to one of the best schools around.
Exactly. See, that was the thing I was just about to bring up. See, a lot of people, they talk, about locations. And I go, Southern California has so many different locations here in sunny Southern California, right? You got Ramona, you got, Palomar, right over here. You have Rancho Santa Fe. What was the last one?
There's another Fallbrook.
Fallbrook. Oh my God. I'm in Valley Center, Paula Vista, you name it. There, Vista. San Diego County is huge. It's massive. But then when you talk about housing and people go, well, I'll never be able to afford a house in sunny Southern California. But then you show them the breakdown of the county, right? Unincorporated areas, incorporated areas, different educational opportunities, economies. Temecula has education, colleges, all the different things you could want.
So I have a client that's a high school teacher in Watts at Locke High School. The most dangerous high school in California is Locke High School. I actually went out to Watts and I showed homes, right? In Watts, I showed in Watts and I showed in Compton. 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, 900 square feet, built in the 40s, minimum price, $500.
Ugh.
In the hood.
Ugh.
Think about that. So I went and I showed her these homes, right? And I was like, you have a grandson. And this house is literally, if the kid were to run out the door, there's a busy street and there's a stoplight and a bus stop right there. And I took my phone. I'm like, hey, if you went to Corona, which is 45 minutes east, look what you could get for the same amount of money. Brand new house built in the 2000s, over 2,000 square feet, the room size that you wanted, 2-car garage in a community where you don't have cars running up and down the street. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So she looked at that and she was like, you know what? You're right. And we ended up putting in our house in Ontario.
That's gorgeous.
She's going to drive from Ontario to Watts. But
that's not even bad of a drive.
Yeah.
Like when
you have to look at your family and what you're trying to do for your family, not for yourself. You know what I mean? Because if it was just me, I can definitely go live in the hood. Fine. Cool. I can make it. We lived in the dirt, right? But when you're looking at your kids and you're looking at your wife and you're like, man, because everyone's goal should be to give their kids a better life than they received than their childhood, right?
Absolutely.
Like my goal is always to do something. I got a lot in my childhood, like giving my kids the best education I can give them, giving them the best tools that I can give them. So you're going to have to commute. You're going to have to go out to one of these communities. And I was born and raised in San Diego. I was actually born at Balboa Hospital and I was stationed there. So like I am from San Diego. I will never move back to San Diego from moving to Temecula. I love where I live. The family atmosphere. I don't have to get on the freeway to go to a bar. I don't have to get on the freeway to go to the mall. Everything is in this area. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, Temecula is one of the nicest areas.
And what my daughter gets out of it, the sports, the competitiveness of sports up here, it meets all my things. We're definitely a motorcycle community, Harley community. There's tons of motorcycles on the roads every weekend, more than anywhere else. So it's all about sacrifice. If you're willing to sacrifice an hour each way, but you're giving your family a way better opportunity than trying to buy a house in San Diego in like Skyline, National City.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where the school ratings are very low.
See, the way you're explaining that is so perfect, because what you're doing is you're paying off that. A lot of people don't think about it this way, but we've talked about a lot about economical progress, generational progression, right? As a gentleman, you've always kind of taught that. Be aware of that opportunity that keeps on giving. Plant your trees today so your grandfather's sons can, your great grandsons can have shade, in the near future, 10, 20 years. That's actually the near future. It sounds crazy as fuck saying that out loud, that 20, 30 years is in the near future, right? But that wonderful story of getting out of Watts. I have family in Watts in the whole area. My mom was born, I think, in Watts and raised around that area. And knowing what goes on, right? It's not the worst of the worst of the worst, but it's pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
You want
it's nowhere to raise
more.
a kid.
Exactly.
It's nowhere to raise a kid.
You want to give more for yourself, but that's the thing is it really for yourself? Is it really for you? No, it's for the future. It's for your grandchildren, your children. And that's something that you always taught me was be aware of not just yourself, but others. And that's why when you became a chief and your leadership qualities came out, when you got out and you're talking about housing, I was like, fuck, man, I got to get James on. I want to talk to him about this stuff. Yeah, we talked a lot about COVID-19, a little bit about politics, but the primary takeaway is invest in yourself, but invest
100%.
in your future, right? Invest in your kids.
It's not investing in yourself. It's investing in your family. That's what I tell people. You're investing into your family.
That's so awesome.
You're investing into your family's future. You're investing into your kids' future. Just not livability and houseability. You're investing into their education. You're investing into their athletics. You're investing into their hobbies. Like, it's not about you. Your family should reap the fruits of your labor. You know, like us being deployed all the time. You're active duty military member. You're gone all the time. What benefit is your family members getting? Put them in a nice house. Put them in a beautiful neighborhood. Put them in a beautiful school district. That way, when you're deployed, you ain't got nothing to worry about. You know, you're not living in the ghetto where there's drive-bys, or you're not living in a place where, you know, your old lady can't go out and walk at night with the dog because she's scared that something's going to happen to her. Like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, and I tell people this is my line. You work too damn hard. If you're an active duty military member, or you retired, or you got out, you work too damn hard. Reap your benefits. Take care of you. Take care of your family. And don't be one of those vets that sit there and be like, poor, pitiful me. Look at me and I can't do this. Dude, there's programs everywhere. Programs all over the place. We know programs reach out to us. Like what I said, I struggled during my transition. I got out for a year. Third week in, I was like, what the fuck? I had no sense of accomplishment, no self-worth. Like, I was sitting in high-profile meetings and taking care of sailors, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm sitting here watching the grass grow and staring at the wall. Like, and then I tell people, like, when you get out, don't settle. Don't go work at Home Depot or go just do a job. Go do something that you fucking love. You fucking deserve it, and you owe it to yourself to do that to yourself. Go find something that you truly love so it's not a job.
Yeah.
And be highly successful. And I promise you, a lot of your PTSD symptoms will help subside when you're finding something you love, because you're able to fight for it. Think about working at Walmart and going through what we go through every single day with our symptoms. Do you think our symptoms are going to overtake us because we're unhappy and depressed at where we work? 100%.
Oh, yeah.
But think about where, if you had a job, like being in the military, like, that's the reason why I love my team. They're all vets. It's like going back into a regular shop in the military. The way we talk, the way we cuss, you know, the things that we do.
Yeah.
It's like being back into the service. You know what I mean? But like, take care of yourself and go do something that will make you proud and make you want to do. Like, if you had aspirations of being a motorcycle mechanic and a fabricator and opening your own shop, go do it. There's so many things out there to help vets. Semper Fi Fund does an entrepreneurship that sends you to USC for a certain amount of weekends to go through with business school with vets.
That is fucking
for free.
That's
like,
just too
why
cool,
why
man.
not use these advantages and be an entrepreneur? I love being an entrepreneur. I'm my own boss. I work when I want to work. I do what I want to do. I set my own schedule. I get to be able to do what I want to do with my kids. And you know what? I deserve it. You know, like, it's from being in the military to this. I love what I do. And everyone should find that, like you know, you love doing the audio. You love doing the radio station. Think about if you had to go and work a part-time job. You'd be miserable.
Oh, absolutely.
And think about how that would affect your family when you came home every day.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about how that would affect your PTSD symptoms.
Oh, it'd
You'd
be
be
the
a
worst.
raging asshole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would
Like,
be the biggest dick in the world. And and that's the things is, like, I've kind of learned that that's a key indicator. That's
and my
a key
thing
indicator.
is, like, fuck all these meds. Fuck all those psych meds they're trying to put you on, trying to keep you all calm. I'm not saying get off your meds in any way. I'm saying my personal opinion. Go find something you love to do and go crush it and go be successful in it and grind. And I promise you, that will be a better treatment than any medication the doctor could prescribe to you.
Oh, I agree. I couldn't agree even more. And that's something perfect that you hit on, especially, you know, if you're hitting into trouble spots, right? We call them stuck points. If you're getting into those little peaks and troughs of life, right? And you're finding yourself in something where you can't agree with. And this is something we hit on with morals and ethics and stuff like that. If your personal drive is telling you this isn't good enough, listen to that, because more than likely it's not. Discovering your path, it is treacherous. It could be difficult. It could be all of those things. But what you can focus on is the opportunity. Like you said, like we've been discussing this whole time.
And I mean,
go ahead.
I had tons of adversity when I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to be a real estate agent. everyone's like, really? Are you going to shave your beard? I'm like, nope. Are you going to get a haircut? Nope. Look at me. Look at my tats. Like my knuckles are tatted. I'm tatted, and everyone's just like, oh, you're not going to make it. You know what? Fuck stereotypes. That just threw fuel on my fire. That was just like, you know what? I'm going to come into this business world and I'm going to be different than everybody else. I'm going to rock my tattoos. I'm going to rock my long hair. I'm going to rock my beard, and fuck you if you don't want to work with me because the way I look. Exactly. And guess what? I've never had an issue. And it's about being confident in your ability in it. And if you think that being in real estate or being in any kind of profession is about talent, negative. It's not about talent. It's about how hard you grind. Massive action reaps massive rewards.
Absolutely.
If you're able to do the work and you look at the next person to you that's killing it and you want to be that dude, well, do more than that next dude to you. And I promise you're going to do better. Just like what I used to tell you guys with being an EP sailor, right? Find the EP sailor, the early promote sailor, see what he's doing, and fucking blow him out of the water.
Exactly.
Massive action reaps massive rewards, and it's going to make you happier in the long run.
See, and that's
but if you want to sit there, and be like, I don't know what I want to do. Well, go experiment. Like the military's paying for you to go to these schools. Go to a welding school. Go to a mechanic school. And if it's something you don't want to do, say, guess what? I want to go do this now, and find that drive and find that passion.
Yeah, and playfully. That's something too. I always try to let people understand when we discuss things like this, because sometimes we take it too hard to heart, right? Like, we failed at that, or that wasn't the perfect fit, or that wasn't the perfect fit. That's kind of the journey. You're not going to find the perfect fit until you do. And that's kind of the thing, being willful and I should say earnest enough in your pursuits where you're not blind to the opportunity, but you're, like you said, you're grinding and you're doing, and you're just gracious for the doing, but then also be gracious for those setbacks, because those setbacks are going to teach you a lot. One of the biggest things, like you were saying, when you got out and you're trying to find that thing, for me, I didn't know what it was. I tried to do the business thing and I didn't agree with it. And then I found the audio thing and I was like, oh my God, this is it. And it is. And for years, I've been doing it for almost 8 years now. And I'm going, okay, so then how do we get more guys and girls to find those things? And you're saying there's so many different programs. Go out there, try it. If it's welding, try it. If it's motorcycles, try it. If it's real estate, hit James up. He knows a lot about this stuff.
I will get you an internship if you want to do it. Also, you know what? One of the best foundations that I work with is Warrior Built Foundation out of Lake Elsinore. If you're a combat vet, go up there and check it out. They even got PTSD groups on Tuesday, which is a phenomenal group. They don't go through your story. If you want to roll in there and bring a motorcycle in there, they have a mechanic that will help you work on your bike. They'll even give you the oil. He'll put on the parts. And there's a music room. They do photography. There's a full-on recording studio in there. And it's open to combat vets. Like, why not take it? And all these different programs. They send people to Laughlin Bike Week for free, sit at the booth, promote Warrior Built, promote you as a combat vet. Like, why not take advantage of these? I hit them up numerous times when I was getting out, like, hey, do you got a job? And they were working and getting me a job and finding me things to do. So there's programs out there that will definitely make you a better person. But the first step is that you got to want it, and you got to take that first step. And everyone's first step is, how am I going to get out of my house? And how am I going to face the population? Hey, you did it in the military. You can do it again. Step out. Fear is a good thing. Fear is definitely a good thing, right? Well, we used to say in combat, right? Fear will let you know you're alive, just like pain, right?
Yep.
If you feel pain, you know you're alive. If you feel fear and that heart is pounding, you know you're fucking alive. No matter how shitty the situation is and how dirty you are and how cold and sweaty you are, you're still fucking alive.
Yep. And alive is where it's at.
There is nothing in this world that is going to put you in that same situation. And you've already overcome one of the greatest situations of fear of life. The biggest fear in anyone's thing is dying. I don't care if people are like, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to die. I'm good with it. No. When it comes to time, that heart is going to pound. You know what I mean? That adrenaline's going to rush. And you've already been through it.
Yep.
So whatever you do now is little compared to everything we've already done.
See, that's so amazing that you brought it up that way. And that's actually a great note to leave it on, because it is true. You gotta kind of rise to the occasion, rise to the challenges, and not let fear control your life. Not just like what we're talking about with personal transition, veteran opportunity, but this correlates directly to the COVID-19 stuff. Don't let fear control your life. Don't let these things affect you to the point where you're not living or you don't feel happy. And that's something that's extremely important right now. And I couldn't be any more thankful, and again, always humble to share time with you and talk things out and just hear about what you got going on and the opportunities with Warrior Built and also the real estate agency. If you mind giving it again a little clearer, louder, and your contact information. That way we can get people in contact.
Okay, I'm James with Kim Still and Associates. My email address is james@ksadreamhomes.com. My cell phone number is 858-243-3031. If you're a vet and you're interested in the real estate community, hit me up. I'll get you an internship. You can see what it's about while you're getting ready to take the exam. I'd be more happy to help you out in any way I can. I am definitely tied into the Warrior Build as well. So if anyone is struggling with PTSD, struggling mentally, definitely would love to help you out and get you pointed at the right direction.
That's amazing, dude. And again, I can't say thank you enough. I'm super stoked that you're out. You got your beard and your long hair, which threw me the way the fuck off.
Hey, no more.
It's beautiful. It's luxurious.
Internet. Hello. Alltså sen idag örs när man får gå när ni ska jag finna mig kapsen och det är bestämt att jag ska bara shit.
Well, I need to say,